Okay, so I kind of want to go back and recover the Ultimates from the Ultimate Marvel Universe, the original Ultimate Marvel Universe. And the reason why, because I feel like personally, I can do a better job than I did in the past when it comes to retelling the stories of the Ultimates from the Ultimate Marvel Universe. Now, you have to remember, when it comes to the Ultimate Marvel Universe, it was built in a way where you had to think about our world. What would happen if heroes had appeared in our world? What direction would our world go to if we had heroes around the board just flying around trying to do different things? And that was what the Ultimate Marvel Universe was like. It was more realistic, more grounded than the main Marvel Universe. And so when it came to the Ultimates, they were very different from their main Marvel Universe counterpart, but it did give us some interesting storylines. Some were good and some were, they were something. But today's video is going to be Ultimates Volume 1, issues number 1 through 6. I kind of want to see you guys get a taste of what the Ultimates were like when they first appeared in the Ultimate Marvel Universe. Now, when it comes to the first chapter for today's video, it solely focuses on Captain America. We don't really get the chance to see other members of the Ultimates just yet, except for Tony Stark. And even then, we only see Tony for like 2 or 3 pages. Now, getting back over to Steve Rogers, we do pick up in the year 1945, and we do see Steve still fighting in World War II. And this is going to begin the process of moving him over into the present day. Now, when it comes to Steve Rogers, we do learn that most of the men in the military don't really trust Steve at all because they feel like he's only here as a way to trick young men back at home to join the military to fight in this war. But the ones who had fought along Steve multiple times, like Bucky, they tell the rest of the men, no, Steve has never failed a mission, and he's not going to fail this one either. And so you have Steve and his crew get ready to jump into the next battle. Now, when it comes to Steve Rogers, we do learn that his next mission is to stop Germany from being able to win the war. You see, when it comes to Germany, they have a missile, a nuclear missile. If that missile hits the US, then Germany wins the war. And so when it comes to Steve, his main goal is to stop that missile. But unfortunately, by the time he walks into the room, the missile was already launched into the air. Now, luckily for Steve, he was able to jump onto the missile before it left the building. But now he knows that he's not going to make it, that this is going to be his last mission. And so he calls out to Bucky to tell Bucky, hey man, listen, I am not going to make it at all. This is a goodbye. I wish you very well. And so you have Steve pull out a grenade. That grenade explodes, and then the nuclear missile also explodes. And you have Steve just fall straight into the Atlantic Ocean, leaving us wondering what could possibly happen to him. But it's very similar to the main Marvel Universe Steve Rogers in some areas. But either way, there goes Steve. But then we jump over to the present day and we pick up with Tony Stark. And we see Tony and his crew currently trying to climb Mount Everest. But then you have Tony tell every single member of that crew that he is about to go in a new direction in life, and tells everyone they all have been reassigned to New York, to Manhattan, to work on a new project. And then we're left to wonder what could be this new project that he is talking about. But then we dive into the second chapter, where we pick up with Bruce Banner having lunch with Nick Fury. Now, this lunch is really important for a lot of different reasons. The first is that you had this book doing a callback to Ultimate Marvel Team Up #2, where you had Spider-Man fight against the Hulk when the Hulk had attacked New York. And so when it comes to Nick Fury and Bruce Banner dinner, well, their restaurant has the perfect view of where the Hulk had attacked last time, and that area is still being repaired. Now, apparently it has been a few months where now Bruce Banner is constantly being tested by the American government to make sure that he no longer has the ability to turn into the Hulk. Now, we also learned that Nick Fury had just been promoted to the leader of S.H.I.E.L.D., the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, this is really huge because it leads into our next reason for this dinner. It's Nick telling Bruce, hey, the American government, the president, the military, they all agree it's time to relaunch the Super Soldier Program. We want you to try again to recreate the Super Soldier Serum because it was the reason why Bruce had turned into the Hulk. He had created a serum before, believing he finally cracked the code, but unfortunately he did not, and he turned into, well, the Hulk. But you have Nick saying, hey, I'm going to bring you back in because all the tests proved that you are clean. There's no longer a Hulk inside of you, but I want to tell you, you have been demoted. You're not the person in charge of this program. You're now the second person in charge. Now, we pick up with the Wasp and also Hank Pym, and we kind of find out that these two guys have also been recruited into the new program that Nick Fury is trying to launch. Now, we already know it's going to be a superhero program, but when it comes to Hank Pym, around his time in Ultimate Marvel, he had been working on a lot of different projects, but the one project that got S.H.I.E.L.D's eye was his Giant Man project to be able to grow in size. And so you having S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury say, hey, we are going to move you two guys over to New York into a better lab so that you are able to continue that project and hoping you can finally complete it. Now, you also have Hank Pym mention the idea that these two guys are going to join the superhero team, but so is Iron Man. And that is really huge. And the reason why, because apparently at first, Iron Man was not going to join the the Ultimates program. And that's the big question for Nick Fury. Why did Iron Man change his mind? Because again, he told Nick Fury and the American government, there is no way that you'll have my Iron Man suit part of some superhero team, but then out of nowhere, he changed his mind. Now, we also kind of find out another reason why he was in Mount Everest 4. He was working on a brand new Iron Man suit, the one we are currently seeing. Now, when it came to the Iron Man suit, this one right here in the Ultimate Marvel universe, I honestly did not like it that much, but hey, it wasn't my choice. But either way, when it comes to Nick Fury, he asks the question and Iron Man answers. He says, the reason why I want to help because I thought it would be a good idea to see the American government, the American military, and also billionaires finally coming together and try to help save the world instead of trying to bleed it dry. I'm trying to be a better example of what billionaires should actually be doing when it comes to their money and power. And Nick Fury kind of likes that answer, but you can tell there is another reason why Iron Man wants to join the team. Now we have to shift our focus back over to Bruce Banner, but also the Wasp, so that we are able to learn a tad bit more of information about Bruce. You see, we kind of find out that Bruce was engaged to Betty Ross, but they had broken up. Now, here's the thing, because we're left to believe the reason why him and her broke up is because she took some kind of test to see if their relationship was toxic. And apparently, Bruce was a very toxic person in the relationship. And so she had no choice but to go ahead and leave. Now, we also kind of find out that Betty and the Wasp used to be roommates back in college. but it was only for a short period of time. Now we kind of find out the building that Bruce and the Wasp are walking into is going to be the base for the Ultimates down the road, but also it contains the labs that our heroes are going to work out of. Now when it comes to Bruce and the Wasp, when they walk in, they see Hank working on the Giant Man experiment once more, except this time he's testing it on himself. Now we do learn that there is a limit that he is allowed to grow to, and that is 60 feet tall. We also learn in the possibility there is a secret to his serum that he does not want the world to actually know. But here's the thing, if he's able to pull off this experiment, then the American military can take his project and then send in an army of giant men to help them win wars. And so once you have Hank be injected with his own serum, we do see that he is able to grow in size up to 59 point something, right up to almost 60 feet tall. But it worked, and he is perfectly okay. And for Bruce, it hurts him to see this because Hank Pym was able to pull off one of his experiments, and Bruce cannot do that himself because he has been working on the super soldier serum for years. But then he gets a call, and this call could possibly help him a lot because you have Nick Fury say, hey, listen, I think I could help you finish the super soldier program because you're not going to believe what we just found. We found Captain America and we are unfreezing him at the moment. This is great for us and for you. Now, as we dive into the third chapter, we do pick up with Hank Pym and the Wasp, where you do have the young couple being able to spend some quality time with one another, but at the same time, they're still testing out a few things when it comes to Hank Pym being Giant Man. So, for example, his suit, so they have something to wear when he's out there fighting against different super villains. And honestly, that's a good idea because I'm pretty sure the world is not really ready to see a 60-foot tall naked man running around. But then out of nowhere, you do have the Wasp get a call from Nick Fury saying, hey guys, we need you back at the base now. And so we have to jump back over to the main base for the Ultimates. And you have Bruce, Nick, and Tony waking up Steve Rogers. And this is a huge moment for Steve because once he wakes up, they tell him everything he needs to know about the idea that one, they won the war, but two, that war took place 50 years ago. Hey man, you're now in the year 2002. Sorry, but hey, here we are now. And for Steve, it's just too hard for him to process that. He's kind of like, there's no way you're going to tell me that I was frozen in time for over 50 years. There's no way. And so you have Steve, well, try to break out of the base. He actually attacks Nick, Tony, and Bruce. Now, Bruce cannot turn to the Hulk because, again, they made sure to take the Hulk out of him. And so, unfortunately, it does look like Steve might be able to get away and just run into the city until he is stopped by Giant Man, who had just came back to the base in time to see what in the world was going on. But now he knows. They got Steve Rogers. Now, this leads into one of the hardest moments for Steve Rogers. The idea of going to pay a visit to Gail, the woman he loved back in the 1940s. But we kind of find out after he had supposedly died, she moved on. She got married to Bucky, his best friend. Now, you would think, okay, Steve should be mad. His best friend married his girl. But no, he's not mad. He's actually happy because Bucky was able to give Gail a life. They had children. They had grandchildren. He took care of her. He loved her. It's great for Steve to see that Bucky and Gail were together. But the problem is when Steve goes over to pay them a visit, Bucky is happy to see Steve. But Gail, she does not want to see Steve at all because she does not want Steve to see her as an older lady. When he left, she was young and beautiful, and now she feels like she's old and ugly. But you have Steve kind of like, I don't care. I just want to see you. But she does not want to see him. And so he has to leave. Now, you then have Nick Fury take Steve Rogers over to a nearby cemetery. Now, when they arrive, we kind of find out that it's Nick Fury informing Steve Rogers what happened to every single family member of Steve Rogers when he was gone for 50 years. His mom died, his dad died, his brother died. The only person he has left now is a niece who moved to Idaho with her husband. And so Steve said, you know what? Let her be, because she doesn't even know who I am, because I died, or supposedly died, and I was gone for 50 years. I'm technically on my own now. But now we jump over to this event where you have Nick Fury and Betty Ross about to walk into. Now, when it comes to Betty, we do learn that she is the PR person for the Ultimates. And that is really important for this section because we do learn that we now pick up with a launching event. It's the idea of telling the world what the American government, what its SHIELD is trying to do to put together a superhero team. Steve Rogers, Hank Pym, the Wasp, and Tony Stark. That's really it. Now, you do have Tony mention another member to the team that he is trying to recruit, and that would be Thor. But he'll come later on. But the whole point of this is to show the world what the American government and SHIELD is trying to do. To show the people of America that, hey, we're putting together a superhero team to protect this country. And this is really huge. Now, we do see Tony Stark having an interview with Larry King. Now, this interview is really important because it's Larry King pointing out one big question. What is the point of the Ultimates? Because if you look at it right now, so far the American government has spent $50 million to just build you guys a base. And other $1 billion were used as a way to pay for every single person's salary who works for SHIELD, including you guys. But here's the problem though. So far as the team has been put together, you guys have not caught a supervillain. You guys have not handled any kind of war situations. Bruce Banner was not able to crack the super soldier serum with the blood samples of Steve Rogers. If you look at it, there's no actual point for the Ultimates. You are wasting America's money. Now for Tony, it's more of, but here's the thing. We're trying to prepare ourselves for the possible future of many different supervillains popping up left and right. Now, by this point in Ultimate Marvel, they only had technically one supervillain, and that would be Magneto. The other ones like Green Goblin and maybe like Doc Ock weren't as big as Magneto, who was trying to cause havoc across the entire country. And so for Larry King, he's saying, hey, listen, I get it. We already had one, but how do you know we're going to have more? And what if you guys are the problem? What if you guys are the reason why we have more and more supervillains popping up left and right to attack America? Can we actually trust the Ultimates? But getting back over to Steve Rogers and the Wasp, we see the Wasp buying Steve a bunch of clothes so that he's able to fit in with the present time. But also she's kind of trying to build some kind of friendship with Steve Rogers that could play out in different ways down the road. Now, when it comes to Steve, we do learn that he did move back into his old neighborhood. Now, when it comes to the Wasp, that was a very bad idea because his old neighborhood is very rough. It's not really a safe area for him or possibly other people as well. But for Steve, he said, I grew up here. I want to stay here because this area is a part of me. Except when they get back to his apartment, he comes to find out somebody has broken into his apartment and stole a few things as well. Now, we do get reminded that Betty Ross is the PR person for the Ultimates, and she's very upset at the moment because, one, Tony Stark is away on some kind of space trip. Steve Rogers in the city right now trying to hunt down the kids who attacked his apartment, and the Wasp is helping out with that. Hawkeye is supposed to be a member of the team, but he did not show up, and Thor still has not joined the team at all yet. And so for Betty, she's very upset because she had called in a bunch of reporters, and the only person she can show off at the moment of the team is Giant Man, and that's really it. The rest of the team is far away, and this hurts the image of the Ultimates even more. Now, we also get a better look of the relationship between Betty and Bruce, and for me personally, it's just her constantly talking down to Bruce. Now, yes, he did mess up by turning himself into a Hulk, but it seems like there are other things that really did bother her when it came to Bruce Banner, and she is constantly attacking him for those different reasons. Now, something else I do want to mention about the Ultimate Marvel Universe is that it was built in a way of saying, what if heroes appeared in today's world, in our world? And so the idea that you have Bruce and also Nick going out of their way to try to recruit Thor is wild and crazy, because it's the idea that how in the world are we going to have an actual god on Earth just walking around so freely? Now, I should also mention that when it came to the origin of Thor, we were not really given any kind of information about him until his own Ultimate Thor miniseries, which I did cover, and I do say you should go over there and watch that video to get the full origin of the character. But around this time in Marvel Comics, no one knew the actual origin of Thor. It was just that he's some dude walking around with a hammer claiming that he is some god, but everyone else around him does not believe in the idea that he is a god. And so you have Nick and Bruce coming out of their way and trying to recruit Thor, except he says no. And the reason why he says no, because he believes that Nick, Shield, and the American government are all just bad people. Yes, you're telling the world right now this superhero team is being used as a way to protect the country from super villains, but sooner or later down the road, you are going to use that superhero team to help you win wars across the world. And that right there is a huge problem, because sooner or later, you guys are going to kill innocent people. And so Thor says, no, I am not going to join your new ultimate superhero team. Now, we jump back over to the base of the Ultimates, and this is going to lead into the beginning of the return of the Hulk in the Ultimate Marvel Universe, because we do pick up with Nick, Tony, Hank, and also Janet. Now, those four characters, they are currently talking about the idea that down the road, there could be a movie about them, and which actor or actress could possibly play them in those movies. But when it comes down to Bruce Banner, they give them different actors as a way to make fun of him. Now, he's not in the room just yet until the very end. And when it comes to Hank and Nick's last couple of jokes, Bruce hears it, and it makes him very upset, because the whole point of the joke was Bruce was not able to crack the super soldier serum. It has been weeks, and we have Steve Rogers now, and Homeboy still cannot crack it, and that is a huge problem. Now, later on that night, we do pick up with Bruce calling up Betty Ross. Now, Betty, she's on a date right now with Freddie Prinze Jr. She's trying her best to make different kinds of deals as a way to help build out the popularity of the Ultimates. But when she gets that call from Bruce, at first, she's kind of upset until he tells her, shut up and listen. I made a mistake. I gave myself my own version of the super soldier serum. Now remember, the last time he took that, he turned to the Hulk. And so right now, it's about to happen again. He is about to turn into the Hulk, and that is a huge problem. Now, he tells Betty why he did it for. He said, listen, I got tired of the idea that many different people out there were talking down about me, saying that I'm not good enough to be able to crack the code for the super soldier serum. But at the same time, I got tired of hearing how having the ultimates is basically pointless, that we are wasting the American government's money on this program. But now I'm going to show the world there is a reason why we need the ultimates. I am going to turn myself into the Hulk and allow the ultimates to fight me in front of a crowd of people. And that will show the world, yes, we need the ultimates for situations like these. And so he hangs up the phone. He passes out. Now, luckily for him, well, at first, luckily for him, you do have an ambulance come by to take him away. But as they're taking him to a nearby hospital, he turns into the Hulk. And the last page of this chapter is the Ultimates getting ready to go out there to fight against the Hulk. Now, around this time, you only had 4 members: Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, Giant Man, and the Wasp. And that's it. And so it's kind of like, can these 4 heroes actually take down Ultimate Hulk? And so you have the whole entire 5th chapter be used as a way to see the Ultimates try their best to stop the Hulk. Now, when it came to Bruce Banner, he knew that he was going to turn into the Hulk. And so he left behind a cure in his lab for the Ultimates to find to hopefully use against him as a way to stop him. But the problem is they have to get close to him, or at least calm him down after getting close to him. Now they send in Giant Man at first, and you would think, okay, Giant Man might have an advantage here. No. The Hulk teaches Giant Man a lesson by saying, you are nowhere on my level at all. And you have the Hulk, who's more savage than the main Marvel Universe counterpart, trying to kill off Giant Man, trying to rip his head off. But luckily, Iron Man flies in to take the Hulk somewhere else. Now, like I said earlier, I didn't really like the Iron Man suit in the Ultimate Marvel Universe. This model right here. Later on, he will have better models. But the main reason why I did not like his armor suit is because it wasn't as powerful as his main Marvel Universe counterpart. And I do understand that this was the early days of Ultimate Iron Man in the world of the Ultimate Marvel Universe, and on top of the idea that we are supposed to believe what would happen if heroes appeared in our world when it came to the Ultimate Marvel Universe. And so when it comes to Iron Man, he's trying his best to throw out different weapons on Hulk, but none of those weapons can properly take down the Hulk. And then his armor suit is constantly losing power at a very fast rate. And so he needs somebody else to step in for him. And so you have the Wasp use her tatas as a way to distract the Hulk. Now, the Hulk follows her over to where Steve Rogers is at, and now it's up to Steve to bring down the Hulk. Now, Steve knows that he really can't go toe-to-toe with the Hulk for a very long period of time, but he also knows that he only needs to hold the Hulk off long enough to allow the Wasp to inject the cure into the Hulk's body. Except when it comes time to inject the cure, well, the needle breaks, and so there goes that plan. But Steve Rogers, he has other plans up his sleeve. But luckily for Steve Rogers, somebody else does step in to give him more time to hopefully work that plan out. And you have Thor appear. Now, when Thor appears, let's not forget, he did tell Nick and Bruce that he will not join the Ultimates if they're going to just be going around the world attacking other countries who are possibly enemies to America. But he did say that he'll step in to fight against super villains. And currently, the Hulk is a super villain. Now, this is Thor thinking that because he is a god, he should be able to take down the Hulk. It's not him trying to buy Steve more time to make a new game plan. It's him saying, no, I am going in for the killing blow to hopefully take down the Hulk. Now, I won't kill him, but my goal is to have him go ahead and give up for us. Except Hulk's kind of like, dude, your attack did do some damage to me, but I'm not going to give up. Let this battle continue on. Now, before you have the Hulk be able to beat down on Thor, we kind of find out that Steve Rogers does have another plan that could possibly bring down the Hulk. And he says, hey, Hulk, I know what you want. You want Betty. You want Freddy. They're both currently in that chopper right there that's leaving the area. If you want to get them, you got to go up there to get them. And so you have the Hulk go to a nearby building to jump off that building to hopefully get to Betty. Now you're probably wondering, why in the world would Steve Rogers make Betty and also Freddy bait for the Hulk? Well, inside the head of the Hulk is the Wasp, and she does use her ability to hit a part of his brain, the Hulk's brain, that turns off the Hulk persona, turning Hulk back into Bruce Banner. And so by the time he gets back down to the ground, he's just regular Bruce Banner again. Now, when it comes to Bruce, he is begging for forgiveness. And you have Steve say at first, hey man, listen, I understand why you did this for. Listen, man, you are most definitely part of the team. We couldn't be the Ultimates without you. And then you have Steve Rogers just kick Bruce right in the face to knock him out. And Steve walks away and calls up Nick saying, hey, he's down. Now, can we all go home? Now, as we jump into the final section for today's video, I do want to shift our focus over to Betty Ross because we do pick up a few hours after the incident. Now, yes, you do have the Ultimates going out of their way, making sure that the innocent people who were affected by the Hulk incident are okay, but at the same time kind of enjoying being the popular superheroes who are so loved by the people they just saved. When it comes to Betty, though, Betty admits that she was in the wrong because, as we saw in this entire video, she was talking down to Bruce, and she kind of feels like she is responsible for Bruce retaking the super soldier serum and turning into the Hulk once again. But at the same time, she kind of likes the idea that he went that far to just get back with her. Now, with her being the PR person of the Ultimates, she does tell Nick, hey, don't worry. I'm going to spin this in a way where we actually had a Hulk go on a rampage and we had to use the Ultimates to save the day. And I'll make sure to leave out the idea or the fact that Bruce Banner is the Hulk. Now, I kind of want to skip over a few pages and jump into the last two sections of the story that really matter a lot when it comes to us diving into Volume 2 in our next video. So, when it comes to Tony Stark, he does invite every single member of the Ultimates over for dinner to celebrate the idea that they were able to work together as a team and take down the Hulk. Now, this is really great for Steve, Thor, and also Tony because they are able to build a bond with one another that is going to carry over to later books down the road in the Ultimate Marvel Universe. But it's also the moment where you have each hero kind of explain why they're part of the Ultimates. Like, why are they here for? We already know why for Steve and also for Thor. But we still had no idea for Tony. I mean, yes, we got an idea earlier, but we find out his actual reasoning for being on the Ultimates because he's dying. He has a tumor on his brain, and that tumor is going to kill him in 6 months or possibly 5 years. So why not go out of your way to make sure before you leave the world that you are being one of the greatest men in the world by being a great superhero? Now we jump over to Hank and the Wasp. Now I'm going to warn you guys, this is going to be a very rough topic here because we're going to talk about assault. You see, when it comes to Hank and also the Wasp, they were also invited over to Tony's dinner, but they didn't show up. And the question was, why? Well, we kind of find out why in this section right here. You see, when it comes to Hank, he feels embarrassed about the idea that he wasn't as useful as the rest of the team when it came to stopping the Hulk. And so he feels very embarrassed about it. Now, when it comes to the Wasp, she tries her best to cheer up her husband, but he takes her words in the wrong way, in a way of like, oh, look at you, you're now picking on me, making fun of me, and I bet that you want to sleep with the other men on the team like Tony, Steve, Thor, and whoever else. Now, this argument gets even worse because we do come to find out that the Wasp is actually a mutant. You see, we kind of find out that it was thanks to her blood sample that he was able to create his giant man serum. Without it, most likely, he would never been able to complete the actual project. Now, when it comes to the Wasp and also Hank, their argument gets so bad, they begin to fight against each other, punching and kicking and throwing objects. Now, Hank did throw the first punch, so Homegirl is just trying to defend herself. Now, the fight gets even worse when you have the Wasp shrink down to her wasp size to attack Hank that way, except Hank goes out of his way to grab bug spray. Now, when it comes to the Wasp, she is a mutant. She's a human wasp character, and so with that bug spray, it actually infects her in so many different kinds of ways. Her human side, but also her wasp size as well. And so she has to hide underneath the desk, except Hank does not stop there. He then uses Ant-Man helmet that he has been working on to call in a bunch of ants to now attack the Wasp. And so by the end of the book, he realized that he went too far. He beat his wife. He basically poisoned his wife with bug spray and then used the ants to beat up on her. He went so far that it's going to lead into some more problems for the Ultimates in the next video. So with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.